Today we're going to look at creating the beginnings of an inventory system. So right now our character has two weapons that he could use in the game. So what we want to do is create a system that allows us to attach a weapon. And in this case, we are going to attach a weapon to our character. So doing this is actually very easy, but doing it correctly is the important piece because it's going to determine how efficiently your system, should you choose to develop one, works. Now in your game that you're going to be creating later on in the year, I would suggest that if you want to do things that are what I would consider extreme in terms of gameplay, that you don't. In fact, we're going to begin working on our game design document again because we're going to be starting our actual game not too long from now. So, should you choose to do an inventory system, I would work with other students who are working on similar games and develop it together and share it versus trying to do it with just you and your partner alone. So, the first thing you have to do is you have to dig into your character. So you'll notice that your character is made up of a bunch of bones, and that's how it actually controls animation. Why you're able to take one animation and use it on another character. So characters are divided into humanoids and bipods. Or excuse me, they're divided into humanoids and generic. Humanoids are bipods. Anything that's a bipod, in the sense of it walks like a human. Generic is going to be something that maybe like an orc or pig or some other animal that you're having it take on the abilities of a humanoid, and then anything else is going to be a custom animation. So if you're going to animate an animal that has 4 legs, that's a custom bone structure. So in here you see the words hips, and it may vary based on the model that you're looking at, but this one starts with the name hips, and as I open it, it starts breaking off into other areas. So here's left leg, and spine. Now we're trying to work up to this right hand, so we're going to make this character right-handed. So we need to open up the spinal column, and then you'll notice that on the spine, meaning on this outer piece, is that dagger that's sitting there. Or the dagger case, and then the dagger is actually inside it, because there actually is a case there. So we're going to open chest. We're going to go to right shoulder, right arm, right elbow, right wrist, and then on there you see we actually have a hand. So this character is completely posable in all hands, meaning you can make that character gripped. You can make him grip something. So what we're going to do is right here where it says wrist, we're going to select that. And then from there we're going to create an empty. I didn't put it where I wanted it to, but that's okay. So we're going to take that empty and we're going to call it weapon holder. And this is going to be what we attach the weapon to. We're not going to actually attach it to the character's hand. We're going to attach it to this holder so that if you wanted to change weapons, you would just keep telling the weapons to attach themselves to the holder. So we're going to take this holder, weapon holder, we're going to drag it to the wrist. We're going to zero it out. And you see now it's right on the wrist. Now all I have to do is manipulate my character around so I can make sure that it's now attached to It's the middle of his hand. So that weapon holder is now, I would say, in a very good position to be holding a weapon. Maybe a little, not too far back in the hand. That looks pretty good. Let's get an overhead view. Maybe a little deep in the hand. We'll move it down a little bit. So let me get a wide view on it. Yeah, it's a little far back. Get another view. That looks good. That looks good. And that looks good. So I looked on my 3 axes, and it looks good in all 3. So now, even though it does look like it's a little outside in a 3D environment, so now I can take this and I can stick a weapon to it. Now, there are a few free weapons that are available on the asset store. So let's take a look at the asset store and see what's available. So I'm going to type in weapons, which probably isn't the best. It's not specific enough. So let's be more specific and let's call it melee weapons. See if there's a free pack we can find of melee weapons that we can use. Free being the ultimum word. So these are icons, these are dwarf weapons, that's a trail. I know there's a good axe in here. Here's a nice hammer. Here we go. Let's take a look at these fantasy weapons. A little cartoonish, possibly. Let's take a look at them in Sketchfab. See what they actually look like. It's taking a little while to load. I'm not set on those. I know there's some better stuff out there. Let's see what we can find. Here's a nice sword, but I know there's an axe somewhere. Bloody axe. Let's take a look at that one. Yeah, it's a pretty decent one. So let's see what's in this. Textures, a prefab material. Yeah, it's pretty clean. So go ahead and download Bloody Axe with PBR textures. So that's the one we're going to use. Go ahead and download and import it. Let me pause this video while I do. Oh, that was pretty fast. There we go. I was going to pause, but I'm not going to now. Maybe I will. Okay, now I have the Bloody Axe. I have a prefab of it. There it is. I can see it. Looks pretty decent. So now I can go over to my scene. And the important thing that you understand here is that when we attach this to our scene, when we bring it into our hierarchy, we have to make sure that we're attaching it to this weapon holder. And the reason being is there is, in the Maximo animations, the character putting away a weapon on his back. Where is it? It should have been an unarmed. Unarmed. Equipment, underarm. Equipment over shoulder. There it is. So there's one underarm where he's putting his dagger away or sword, and there's one over the shoulder. So you see it in my window here. See how the character puts it over his shoulder, brings it out. You can use that for putting it in or putting it away. So if you were building a system, you'd want the computer just to substitute out the model once he finished the animation. So when his hand reaches back, it should switch the two models, and then his hand comes forward with the new weapon. So what we want to do is take this new prefab and drag it right into weapons holder. Now, it is the world's largest standing battle axe, and that, should he be able to weld it, could cause some serious damage. So we need to scale it down. So we're going to scale this down to, I'm thinking about the size of it, it's probably 101, so I'm going to go 0.01 on each of these. And see where we're, yeah. Because I think it's almost 100 times bigger than he is. And that made it just a little too small. So let's go okay, 0.03 is the number. I think that's still going to be too small. Let's go 0.9. 0.9 was too big? 0.04 you think is the number? So let's go 0.04. That's kind of scary looking. I mean, that could be an oversized axe, but yeah. Who said 0.03 before? Me. You were right. There it is. So 0.03 is the number we're looking for to get this axe. You can see that it's still in the weapon holder, but we still have some work to do, right? First thing we want to do is zero this out, because look at 0.256 on the z-axis. Okay, that gets us closer to where we want to be. Now we got to take this and literally manually put it in the right configuration. So I would start with the rotation of the axe, and I'm just going to change, it's at -90, so if I take that out, that'll put me at a 90 degree. So let me spin this around, see where we are. You got to kind of take it in the position of his hand where it's turned. See how it's his hand's slightly turned upward, so I probably don't want to go all the way 0, maybe -2. No, a little less than that, or a little more than that. There we go. Probably -5 if yours came in with that angle. And now I can just, what I do is I use my 4 axes. So I'm going to go to Y, and then I'm going to use that to move it. Then I'm going to go to my x-axis, and then I'm going to go to my z-axis. Oh, let me go. Z's on the other side. There we go. And take a look. That's actually looking pretty good. Looks like it needs to go down a little bit. So once you get it situated where you think you're close, then all you have to do is press play, and you'll see the character welding the weapon, and it'll give you an idea of what you need to do. Now look at my character. See how the axe isn't facing in the right direction? So I need to do a rotation of that, because when he took his hand and he brought his hand down, the axe came with it. So that's why it's turned in. So I need to start with the axe facing out. So I need to take this and rotate it to the right. So I'm going to go to my rotation tool. And I'm going to rotate it. And then I'm going to press play. And I should have a good configuration of it. That looks pretty clean. And now, when I press my button, he's swinging a mean X. Let's see how the overhead looks. Oh yeah, that's good action right there. So, that's all you need to do to get your weapon situated. If you find another weapon that you want, make sure you talk to me before you import it so I can check it to make sure there's no scripts or anything that's going to give you problems.